This is a request video from I Hate New Jersey. Yeah, you left a request a while ago, so thanks. It's a really important topic, and I've always wanted to speak on it, but funnily enough, even in real life, I can barely find people to speak about it with. I'd say I'm somebody that comfortably falls into the box of like non-stereotypical black guy. But I knew it pretty much from the point that in my early teens, that's when I pretty much knew it. And, to me, it wasn't necessarily a huge deal because it's just how I grew up. It's just how I found myself, right? It's just how I found life. My parents are African, but, because of their job, we've ended up growing across, going to school in different countries or growing up in different countries. So obviously, we're going to have, not so typical experiences from the average African, or even the average black person. Let me say, even the average person, right? The average person doesn't grow up in different countries, and I understand that it's a privilege. I'm not saying like, oh, look at me. It's just that's just how it happened. Like, fuck me then. But even then, like, I never really thought that I was black. That's the funny thing. I really had to sit about it. I never actually really thought that I was black. I just thought that I was a person. And I'm fortunate enough that I've never had any overt racist incidents happen to me. Like, very few, if any. Maybe they were happening, but because the person that was like trying to be mean or whatever didn't actually say it out loud, I didn't realize it at the time, but whatever. It's still the person being an asshole. Maybe they're being racist, but they're just still being an asshole. The only time I actually realized that I was black was when I entered high school, but when I came back, right, when I left and entered high school, it's it's mostly just African kids and like Indians and like, actually mostly Africans and Indians. Majority Africans and some Indians and kind of a mixed school, I guess, right? But all boys school, fucking Catholic school, disgusting place. Fuck Catholic schools, man. Fuck the Vatican too. And because I was the new kid from abroad, I didn't realize just how petty and jealous the high school mentality was. It wasn't just the fact that I was a new kid, because I think there was another new kid, I can't remember, but I was the new kid from abroad, right? So I'll never fucking forget this one Indian. And I'm not saying this, I don't hate anybody's race or whatever. I've had very close Indian, I still have very close Indian friends. So, right, this is one dickhead. This guy actually had the nerve to tell me, in the country where I am most visibly from, right, quote unquote, he had the confidence to tell me, because I was a kid from abroad, to go back where I came from. And yet his grandparents probably immigrated here like a few decades back or something, right? My ancestors have been here for probably centuries. I don't fucking know, right? He had the nerve to tell me that. And I was just so confused. I was really confused. Because at that point, I'm like, so, where the hell am I from? Where the hell, what exactly is it like? What exactly is it? What does it mean to even be like, that guy is black, that guy is white, that guy is Indian? Like, why why does there have to be these presuppositions about people? Oh, you're black, so you do this. Oh, you know this. Oh, you're Asian, so you must be good at math, right? Why? Why does that have to exist? And because I've had like being African and then there's being black. There's being African and then there's being black. Then there's also being a black African. But then there's also being black in the colloquial sense or the miscellaneous sense. I don't know. There's like the black guys you see on TV playing basketball or rapping or in movies are mostly black Americans. Maybe some of them might be West African, some Nigerians or something. Some of them might be Caribbean, black Caribbeans as well, like Jamaicans and from the Caribbean islands, basically. But then, does that inherently mean I'm supposed to know and act like them? And as fucked as this reality is, knowing what I know and studying about history, I honestly, I'm actually happy that I'm black. I really am. But let me explain why. Understanding just how like politics and religion and economics have been weaponized, particularly against black people for the last few centuries. I always catch people off guard by how I speak and what I say. Because they shove you in a fucking box, and either the moment you climb out of it, they get rid of you, or they try and like push you into a place where you'll still be just as comfortable, but you won't want to shake shit up, or it'll be the other people that they've shoved you in the box with that are pulling you down. This crabs in a bucket mentality is something that I've found so prevalently among black people, and I hate it so much. I hate it so much. There's such a common phrase that when you how do I say it? Never forget the hood. Never forget where you came from. Always. Don't forget the day ones. Don't forget the homies. But like, those are people who were never going to actually do anything with their lives, and they were actively just going to derail you from progressing in your life. I'm strictly just speaking from like a context of just being black. I know these things interact, like they're not exclusive, but it's something that you will understand if I'm telling you, like, if you've experienced it and if you are that as well. It's like a direct, like a one-to-one relation, because of what black culture in the media has been portrayed as. So many people have just one toxic idea of being black. You deal drugs, you rap, you have a huge fucking 10-inch dick, you're just hypersexual all the time, you don't talk coherently. And worse still is how the modern culture represents how people cling to this modern conception of black culture is quite disgusting. It really is quite disgusting. To me, black culture has just become, and I've talked about this before, about monetizing oppression, but this is monetizing degradation. It's monetizing degradation behind the guise of monetizing your oppression. Okay, so my ancestors were enslaved, so I don't know, I get to rap about killing other black men on a suburb that none of us own. Like, where's there's no logic involved. And yet people are just always frothing at the mouth about the smallest hints of racism. And this is why I till now I have such a tenuous relationship with being black. I don't hate being. I just said I love it, right? For a number of reasons. But in identifying with a black community or a black this or a black that, it's very hard for me because I see the kinds of people that identify with it and how they behave and what they say and the ideas that they hold on to. And I don't like any of it. For me, one reason why I'm so repulsed by social justice is just how much the social justice ideologues have fixated on black people, black women in particular, feminism in particular. It's gotten to a stage where the people, the tolerant left are the most repugnant, self-righteous pieces of shit you'll ever walk past because they're so patronizing. They're so patronizing when you don't conform to their idea of this helpless little puppy, helpless little puppy person of color, BIPOC, marginalized demographic. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I'm just saying words now. But you know what I mean, right? These social justice types that were all Black Lives Matter, this and that. But the moment you're like, hey, how about I say what I do and don't like? And how about I say whether or not I want to hear out what Nazis have to say? If somebody doesn't want to hear what a Nazi has to say, that's them. But if I want to hear what they want to say, let me hear it. Oh, no, they're spreading radicalism. They, aren't you black? Don't you understand? It just, I'll try and I'll link a clip with Abba and Preach talking about H3, Ethan Klein, the piece of shit. Oh, I'm probably going to make a video on him too because, I find him so disgusting.
Free speech is a more broad philosophical idea rather than the type of free speech that's actually enshrined by law.
Well, I'd like to know what Abba and Preach think if the KKK had a YouTube channel.
One of them was just.
This guy really thinks it's a gotcha.
Oh
wait. These guys are black. Let's rebut them. Oh, the Ku Klux Klan. You want to know the truth? And this is something that black people echo. You know what black people are really tired of? We're tired of innuendo when it comes to racism. We're tired of the subversive stuff. The stuff where people act condescending to you and act like you as a minority can't think for yourself. So let me, the enlightened liberal, tell you what you should think. We're tired of that.
In a word that you're going to understand. Yeah. Let me put the KKK because you don't understand the other stuff.
Yeah, you don't understand the concept. So let me use something that you, a black person, would be able to understand, right? That's what we're tired of. We're tired of, listen, I grew up in a different time where black folks and white folks used to fight each other all the time and they used to just say what they thought, okay? And I'm not gonna lie, I preferred that time. You wanna know why I preferred it?
Because it was straight up in your
Not
face.
because racism was worse than, because let me tell you, it wasn't. But you knew what the other person was thinking.
It was straight up.
I really do. No matter how far you try and get out of this box, there's always going to be people there trying to oh no, you shouldn't talk like that. You're black, but you're black. How could you say that? Oh, but of course you act like that. You're black, And then. Oh man. There's the black people who live by the stereotype, and then there's the ones who, for a number of factors, are not. They don't abide by that stereotype, but then in that aspect, they become a stereotype on their own. The non-conventional black person. I guess they watch, they read comics, they love anime, they, listen to classical music. Maybe they like playing tennis. Maybe they're nerdy or something. Maybe they speak, I don't know, like a suburban white dude from Boston. I don't know. Essentially, they do things that get them called white. And I've been called white several times in my life. doesn't bother me. I laugh about it, actually. I get cold white all the time. But to me, when people insult you like that, you're on the right track. Because they're saying something about you. They are actually complimenting something about you that they lack in themselves, but they're trying to frame it as you betraying them. It's not an insult. It is actually a compliment. And, to me, and the thing is, I've had time to like think about this shit. I've had time to ruminate on it for a very long time, very deeply. Somebody like my younger brother who has a much stronger accent than I do, like, I don't even know. So, to me, race is it's one construct that is incredibly difficult to break. But once you do, everything else becomes so much easier. Understanding everything else becomes so much easier, because if you really think about it, the concept of race and racism and natalism are deeply, intimately intertwined. Deeply so. The natalists in charge, who also happen to be racists, will want to they'll want to reduce or exterminate or otherwise control a population of other races that they don't like, right? For whatever reason. It's such a backwards demonic rationalization. But look at it this way. When slavery was still legal in the United States, they didn't want black people to go anywhere. They didn't want the enslaved black people to go anywhere. They wanted them exactly where they were, enslaved, brutalized, and underneath their boot. But literally the second they abolished slavery, right? Did you know that there were thousands of Confederate soldiers who moved to Brazil after they lost the war? They literally moved to Brazil, which at the time was still practicing slavery, and it only criminalized slavery in like 1888. It was the last country in the Americas to criminalize slavery. They were still actively participating in the slave trade. And the Confederates, there was some portion of the Confederates that moved to Brazil. Now, if this lost cause myth was really true, and it was just about states' rights and rebellion and fighting for the American spirits, why did they move to Brazil, a country that received the most enslaved Africans in the Americas? Today, Brazil is the biggest country, is the country with the biggest population of African descended people from outside of Africa, directly because of the slave trade. Why did the Confederates move there? I would hope, you can put two and two together, right? They were enslaved by the ideology of racism, that they in turn enslaved other people and used those other people that they're brutalizing to justify their own existence. You see how demonic that is? And it fits into why even the idea of like a race traitor it's literally like it hasn't gone anywhere at all, If I right now decided to marry like a white woman or an Asian woman, my parents probably wouldn't have a problem. They actually, my parents are kind of chill with it. They're not chilled with like marrying, I don't know. They probably have more of a problem with me marrying like Africans than they would have me marrying like a white woman or something. But it wouldn't necessarily be a problem on our side it would probably more be a problem on like now the side of the woman I would want to marry, because definitely there's going to be like, oh, how are the kids gonna turn out, blah, like all these bullshit ass questions that they feel like it's their place to even say, And sometimes I really do feel for biracial people, because, unless it's like certain biracial mixes, right? Like, I really feel for them because, what are you supposed to act like in that sense? Who are you supposed to be? Which side are you supposed to pick, essentially? Which side are you supposed to be on? And, while I say I don't adhere to the concept of race at all, but even though I don't, I understand so many people do, and it informs their daily decisions. It informs their daily mindset. I'll even be controversial and go as far as look at the state of the Middle East. It's been bombed to fucking hell by the US and other Western allies, including Ukraine, by the way. Ukraine sent soldiers to fight in the Iraq War. They've been bombed to shit for decades. And it is a human tragedy, right? The Israel-Palestine situation is a tragedy. Israel's brutal campaign in Palestine is a tragedy. At the same time, though, there are open-air slave markets right now in the Middle East. And Libya is one of the biggest slave ports right now, mainly trading black Africans. And maybe this is news that you don't keep up with, but especially in Saudi Arabia, a lot of domestic workers are straight either East African or like Philippine. Majority of them are East African. And their system is simply just broad daylight slavery. It is slavery. There's so many horrific stories that have come out of the Middle East about the modern day, the transparent ass slavery that they're committing. Once again, against Africans, right? Against black people. And if you didn't know, as soon as Islam emerged in the 7th century, the Islamic slave trade also emerged. And it is the longest continuing slave trade in human history. For 7 centuries, they traded slaves before the Europeans even knew the Americas existed. The Europeans took advantage of the trade routes, and especially the trade routes for slavery that the Arabs had been building with the African kings for a very, very long time, right? Yes, quote unquote, black people were complicit in slavery. And since this is whatever I want, since this rant is whatever the fuck I want, I'm just gonna say it because this is one point that drives me up the wall. Slavery itself, the concept of one race, like someone being a part of this race or that race, is a very recent concept. And it's a concept that only really became crystallized after the 20th century. Because even Italians weren't considered white, Greeks weren't considered white, fucking like Slavs, the Irish weren't considered white just in the earlier 20th century. They weren't. Or if they were considered like an inferior white, right? They were white, but they weren't the kind of white, they weren't the right kind of white. So even in that, these African kingdoms that were so prolific during slavery, they had the exact same class interests as any European monarchy or leaders or nobility would have had in raiding and killing other towns or conquering other territories, right? They didn't believe like, oh yes, I'm going to raid my fellow black person's village and go and sell them to the superior white man. No, I am of this tribe. They are of that tribe. If we win this war, we're enslaving them, and we're gonna sell them to these like ghost pale looking people, and they're gonna give us guns or gold or whatever. It was a crabs in the bucket mentality that was forming from such a long time ago. And it's not like there weren't also kingdoms that were fighting against it. They eventually knew, right? Maybe in the first like few decades or maybe even a century, they didn't know what was going on, but eventually they knew. They realized what was going on. Some of them fought like within their own clans to stop them from selling Africans to the Europeans. I can't remember who exactly it was. It's worth. I might even link some stories. For me, like understanding what it means to be what it means to be stereotypically black and then non-stereotypically black it just exhausts me to the point where I'm like, I don't care. I can put so much brain, so much energy, so much thought into this, and yet, like, what difference is it gonna make? I'm still gonna be me at the end of the day. I'm still gonna have to walk around as me, no matter what I call myself. And I get it. I get why it's so fixated upon in Western countries, especially like North America in particular, right? Like the police are nothing but a genocide squad to me. Do you ever wonder why the police are actually incredibly stupid and very aggressive all the time? They are deliberately chosen that way. They don't choose high achiever. They don't choose high performers. You think a police officer walks into some fresh high school dropout or something, some guy who was just like a bully in high school goes to apply for a job as a policeman, and they'll be like, oh, your conduct has been a bit fishy, or your grades just are not. No, that is the archetype of a police officer. Put onto that the ideology of American racism in particular, and you just have like a genocide squad. I grew up in a fucking developing country, man. Our police are nothing but fucking savages. Decrepit scum of the earth savages. And even they don't kill us. Even they don't kill people at the rate that American cops kill black people over there. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And I was gonna make another video about this, and I might do that because this is quite a long video. To me, in fact, to me, being black showed me the most straight up, the purest reality about this place in a way that is tangible to me, right? It's directly tangible to me. All these narratives, all this, hate speech, if you can call it that. Not that I have a problem with hate speech in particular, but the racism, like the anti-black slurs and ideologies, right? That are so ingrained in so many people. If anything, I think that was like it primed me for antinatalism more than anything else. Because I know the state of Africa right now. I know how many people in these countries are just dying brutally, just pointlessly, and especially children. This global system, this global economic system thrives off of a permanent underclass. And it just so happens that black people in particular will always be that permanent underclass. So what am I to do? It's on me to be like, you know what? I'm here. I've had to sort through this shit out mentally. Fine. I'm not going to have to impose this on a child, let alone my child, right? Why do people, they internalize this victim complex so much so that they feel it's empowering for them to bring forth another marginalized group, right? What the fuck investment do you have in this reality? This is something I'd like to ask all these African families that have like 12, 15 kids and like they're literally living in like the worst conditions. What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you not see reality? What are you trying to achieve by bringing more misery here? These children are going to die before the age of 3 or 4. From like cholera, from tuberculosis, from malaria, from probably being kidnapped and sold into sex trafficking. And you want me to pity that? You want me to be like, oh, we're such a marginalized group, oh, and yet you're fucking having like 6, 7, 8 children. I even saw a story of a woman that had like, I think it was like 20 or something. And they're going to have the nerve to come and be like, oh, you know, life is so hard for me. Life is so hard for me. And sometimes I get why I get called white sometimes, because there's something about this Black African mentality that is, it's so, it's like you're knocking on like an empty, like an empty tank. You just hear the echoes, like it just goes through one side and it exits the other. People want, they want, it's something about how immature the political process is in African countries. And it's something very futile as well. I compare South America, because South America, you know, I need you to ask yourself first, why did so many Nazis and so many fascists in general escape to South America after World War II? So many of them did. I think there's like several leaders who, like, their parents or their grandparents were like literally either Nazis or like Japanese fascists or something. South America, to me, was where the concept of race itself was born. And there's so many Africans there, like so many African descended people. You know, especially in Brazil, you know, and something that keeps coming up to me, and I just find it so, again, demonic, is like Argentina, right? Argentinian politicians constantly say, even the Argentinian people just constantly say there's no black people in Argentina. We don't have Brazilian problems because there's no black people in Argentina, but there are, and there have been. Now, the reason they say that is because they literally exterminated most of them. I can't remember which war it was. I think it was war between Brazil and some other country or something. They're like, yeah, we are like, I've never seen a country that is just so proud about what pieces of shit they actually are. How do you keep saying something like that? And yet, you know, Argentina was on the coast. It is on the Atlantic coast. Like, you definitely received a hella enslaved Africans. And you're telling me today that there's no, like, there's literally Afro-Argentinians right now. And, you know, even the indigenous Americans have had to, like, fight to maintain that sense of identity, or like that the constant need to overthrow, like, you know, fascism is so prevalent there, but so is like every other ideology, you know? And it's one reason I can't take this constant bitching, and it is bitching, that I hear from a lot of Africans, because I'm like, look at you fucking idiots. You guys are so complacent. You guys are so complacent with ignorance, especially, right? The Boondocks, while it was made for like a Black American audience, every Black person can watch that and be like, you know, this is literally just us, man. This is literally just fucking us, bro. Doesn't matter if you're Nigerian, South African, Haitian, right? It's literally just us. This is the shit we do, right? How can you fight something like that? How can you even conform to something? And that's why it's such an enduring piece of media for me, because the solutions were all there and we could all see them, but we're still just going through the same bullshit, perpetuating the same cycles. That to me is it's why I if there was like some script about being Black that I was supposed to fit into, I could never fit into it. Never. Me being Black and my parents being Black is never going to be the same thing. They were literally born during the fucking colonial period, right? There's never our mindsets, our beliefs, whatever, you know, they were never going to be interchangeable. They were never going to be able to understand, and that's fine. But you know, I hope people just stop holding on to these bullshit notions of like racial loyalty. Man, there's nothing you owe your race. You don't even owe your family shit, man. You just found yourself here, you're hungry, you eat, you want to take a dump, you want to piss, you know, you get horny, you want to fuck. And then you just want to repeat the cycle, and then you get sleepy, and then you repeat the cycle again. That's what that is where your loyalties lie, if you should even have any. Wow. Oh, this was a long, and I like I said before, I don't plan my rants. I just go off the top. This was a really long rant, but I really feel like I needed to do this because I think about it every day. This is one thing I think about every fucking day. Every day. But, you know, thanks for the request, whoever requested it.